Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. The title of this video is How to Clear Old Stories. And so I am going to actually guide you through this beautiful practice that I use in my mindfulness and somatic coaching sessions, which actually helps not only myself, but others clear old stories that we've been attached to for so long. So we are going to go on a deepy dive excavation. We're going to dive deep. And so, welcome everyone. My name is Treeesa. I'm a mindfulness and somatic coach. I help people by sharing mindfulness, earthing, grounding, Reiki, Qigong, and somatic practices in nature. And I specialize in stress management, emotional regulation, and mind, body, soul connection. I'm also the leader of the Spiritual Wellness Meetup Orange County community. And I also share group sessions and gatherings in nature as well. So if any of this resonates with you, would love to have you join our amazing community, either here online by subscribing to our channel or by coming on out and clicking the Spiritual Wellness Meetup link below and joining us in person for some powerful and fun sessions and gatherings. So let's dive right in. What you're going to need for this practice to clear an old story is you're going to need a journal or a pad of paper. You're also going to need a pen, and then get yourself a cup of water or a cup of tea. So if you need to pause this video, go ahead and pause, get your water, tea, journal, and pen, and then come on back. And here we go. We're going to dive right in. So the first thing we're going to do is journal about what is upsetting you right now. What difficult experience are you moving through? And so again, you can pause the video here and really write down what is going on with you. What is upsetting? What is this difficult experience going on? Really write about that. Just vomit on your paper. Get it all out. So go ahead and do that now. And one of the things that I've been moving through is I have recently lost my father. And it was a horrific month-long process of watching my dad just wither away and die slowly due to advanced stage leukemia. It was horrific, very difficult. So that was my most recent upsetting and difficult situation. Just brought up so much emotion and feelings that were coming up with that. And just horrific to watch a loved one and parent just suffer and wither away and then just die. Just awful. Anyway, and then what happened after that, we came to realize, my brother and I, that my dad had a will, but he did not have a trust. And so now what happened is my stepmom, now she can get her lawyer and get her trust, and she can now alter. She can now no longer abide by my dad's dying wishes, but she can now alter this will and make it the way that's best for her and change it. And so this was all so upsetting, not only just to lose your loved one, and it's not about money, but it's the fact that, you know, I wanted to honor my dad's dying wishes, but now because he didn't have a trust, there was not that protection, you know? And so then my stepmom gets to change things. And so very, very difficult to try to grasp that. And so now what we're going to do, after you write about your upsetting and difficult situation, we're now going to go into number 2. What feeling is arising out of this upset or difficult situation? We need to now dive into the feeling. So to give you some examples, were you feeling less than? Were you feeling lacking or flawed? Were you feeling incomplete? Were you feeling disconnected? Were you feeling bound by time or money? So again, you can pause the video and really find out what feeling was arising in this upset. So for me, what was arising in this situation was this feeling of lack. So as I was doing my deepy dive excavation, I uncovered that my dad and I had this story in our life of lack. And so I never felt supported or protected by my father. I never, when I was moving through difficult times or divorce or challenging situations financially, I never had the support or protection of my dad. He was not somebody who ever wanted to help me financially. He was very frugal, right? So this was the story that he and I shared my whole life. And so this all was coming back up for me, this feeling of lack, this feeling of not enoughness, not worthy, right? So really find out what feelings are coming up for you in your story, in your upset, in your difficult situation. And so as we continue, of course, my dad didn't have a trust because he's very frugal and he, probably just didn't want to spend the money to have that. And so now look at the story that's even continuing after he passes. My brother and I didn't mean that much to my dad for him to actually have a trust with his will so we could honor his dying wishes. And so that was very clear. My brother and I didn't mean that much to him to do that. And now it lets my stepmother go in and change things and make it best for her. So, wow, what these stories that come up, right? When we do these deepy dive excavations, what we can really find. And so really see if this story that's coming up for you has been continuing for years or maybe your entire life. This is what we want to get to. We want to get to the root of what is coming up. Okay, so now we've got our story, right? I've had this theme running through my life that I am not enough, I am lacking, I am not worthy, I'm not good enough. And so see what is arising for you. And so now what we want to do is, now that you've done this deepy dive excavation, and kind of become clear on this story that's been running in your life, what we want to do now is look at this. Now, is this story true? Let's ask ourselves that. Okay. Well, to give you an example, my story is true for me in my lived experience, but my story is not true for you. Right? So your story is true for you in your lived experience, but that's not my truth, right? So we each have our own truths, right? And we each have our own perceptions, right? We're all living in our own reality. We all are having our own perceptions about what is happening with us in this upset and difficult situation, right? And so it can be really a limiting belief. And if it is a story about a limiting belief, like in my case, that's a limiting belief. I am not, I am valuable. I am worthy. I am abundant. So I had this limiting belief that was running. So see what's going on. Limiting beliefs are an attack on our wholeness, right? So now what we need to do after you go through that is we really need to pull back. We need to rise above now. We need to rise above and say, what is really true? What is universal truth, right? So these were our human truths, right, in our lived experience. But now we want to rise above. And what is really true? What is the universal truth? What is true for everybody? That's a universal truth. What is true for everybody? What is true for all of us is that we are divine beings having a human experience, right? That's true for all of us. We all come from God, Creator. We all are a fractal of the divine. We come from love and light. So we are divine. We are divine beings. We are whole and complete right now. We are not flawed. We are not lacking. We are absolutely whole and abundant and joyous and worthy and valuable and loved. So this is what is true. This is true for all of us. So once we realize this, then we can come back down, right? Now that we know what is true for everybody, and also true that we're all doing the best we can, right? In this human experience, we all have these unique life experiences and circumstances that are unfolding. So we're all, if we can realize that, we're all just doing the best we can here, right? We're all just humans floundering about, right? Okay. And so now what we also want to remember in this process is that God, Creator, never judges us. There's nothing that we can do to ever separate ourselves from our God, Creator. And there's nothing that we can do that would make God, Creator, judge us or not find us worthy or valuable or loved. There's nothing. And so again, if we are not judged, then we need to remember, well, why would I want to judge myself? I'm not judged. So again, it's a reminder that, so if I'm not judged by God Creator, then why would I judge myself? That is just ridiculous. And then why would I judge others? So this is a reminder for non-judgment, right? And it's just a reminder to have such compassion for everyone, that we're all doing the best we can, right? And so as we go along here, we need to awaken. So this journey that we're on, this human journey with all these experiences that we're going through, it's opportunities for us to awaken to the universal truth that we are divine beings. We are whole and complete right now. And when you can really get that, then you can just realize, wow, we can have compassion for ourselves and everyone and all these experiences, that we're all doing the best we can, right? And so now what we do, our next step is just that. It's actually practicing compassionate forgiveness. And we want to start with ourselves. So for instance, in this story, for instance, I'm going to say, I am forgiving myself for buying into this limiting belief that I am flawed or not enough or lacking. I'm forgiving myself for that. That is not true. I'm forgiving myself for ever thinking that I am flawed, not enough, and lacking. I am forgiving myself. Even if you need to put your hands on your heart as you speak your affirmations. So speak it in a way that relates to what feelings are arising for you. Forgiving yourself for buying into that story, that limiting belief, right? Now, after we do that practice on ourselves, now we practice with the others. So now I was with my dad, I was forgiving my dad. I was having such compassion and forgiveness for my dad, having such compassion that, maybe he was feeling lacking, feeling so frugal. Maybe he was scared to spend money and felt lacking or, incomplete in his life. So now I can have such compassion for him, understanding that he made the best choices and did the best he could in his life. I can have such compassion, and now I don't need to judge him. I don't need to be angry. I don't need to be upset. I can now have such compassion, loving kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, right? And so I was doing that work with my dad. And then with my stepmother, I was now directing that and having such compassion and forgiveness for my stepmom. And maybe she too shared that same story of lack, where now she felt she couldn't, honor my dad's dying wishes. She has to change things because maybe she's feeling lack And maybe she feels she has to change things in a certain way to make it better. So again, I have to have such compassion for her, and just understanding that she's going through her own limitations and limiting beliefs. So this is the work that we do, and it's not easy, and it takes practice, and it takes time. So this might not be a one and done right now. This might be something that if it continues to keep coming back, we do our deepy dive, our excavation, and we come back to this process and come back to such compassion and loving kindness and forgiveness for ourselves and the others. And when you do this, when I did this, and when you do this, this is so liberating. This is so liberating. And suddenly you're just free. And so after I did this, I just felt so liberated. I felt so free. And I felt like chains were just coming off of me. Cords were being cut. I was being released. And so how sad that my dad had to die, but spiritually, I know that life is eternal. And so I'm good. I know spiritually that he's going on and I can communicate with him in new ways. But how sad that it took a death. Well, not as sad. Everything is a gift and has a blessing. So death is just a transformation from one state to another. So as my dad has transformed and now he's going on to his next chapter, I have now been released. I have now freed myself from this lifelong story, this limited programming that has been running and limiting me. And I feel like I'm free. And what we do now, when we do these practices, when we lighten up, lighten the load, move this out of the body, we create space so that we can open up to beautiful new blessings and opportunities to come to us. And so after you're done with that, practicing your compassionate forgiveness, and it's not the other person or the difficult situation that is the upset. It's your own material that is upset. It's never so if you're ever feeling these upsets and difficult situations, we have to come within and look at that. That was my material. That story of lack was my material, and I had to clean that up. I had to alter my perception. I had to alter my story. I had to alter my behavior, and I had to awaken and attune and come back into my divinity and into my wholeness. And so that's what these difficult experiences allow us to do, is they crack us open and they awaken us to greater and greater love. So whatever it is that you're moving through, it is purposeful, and it is cracking you open, and it is reminding you who you are, that you are a divine being. You are whole right now, and you're doing the best you can in this human, shit show experience, this human circus, right? Oh my gosh, we have to have such humor in this human circus show. So now what we do, the next step, now that we've gone through all this, the next step is now affirming your new understanding. And that again is, I am infinitely abundant. I am worthy just by being alive, just by existing. I don't have to do anything to prove my worth. I am worthy just by existing. I am valuable. I am whole and complete right now. So you can create your own I am affirmations with your new understanding from this realization that you've been working through. And now, this is not enough. We can't just do this. No, there's more. Then what we do after we've moved through this whole process is now we do our mindfulness and somatic practices outside in nature. Because what happens is our emotions can get trapped in the body. And so we need to make sure that we're moving those emotions out of the body. And again, emotions are energy and motion. So that's why it's so important to have mindfulness and somatic practices where you use your breath and you use movement to move those emotions out of the body, so you're not trapping them and storing them in the body, causing disease. We don't want that. And so that's why this is so powerful, these practices. And so what we want to do, what I do in my life, is do the practices outside in nature with my bare feet on the earth. And when we do this, when we plug into power sources greater than us, like Mother Earth and Father Sun and nature, then we're using that abundance of loving life force energy from the earth and the sun and nature to move through our body, to help us purge and release all the density, giving all that density to the earth so she can transmute it. And then we're breathing in and calling in that loving life force energy to cleanse, clear, and purify our vessel. And so that's why it's so important to do all these steps. And most important is that mindfulness and somatic practices in nature to get those dense emotions out of the body. And that's how we can come back into harmony. That's how we can uplift our energy, frequency, and vibration. That's how we can live in flow and ease and come back to peace and come back to that peaceful, calm, abiding within, that 0 point frequency. When we can just really accept all the light and dark within us, that is the 0 point, the 0 point frequency. And that is not rejecting anything, anything that's light or dark, not rejecting, not being in resistance. It's accepting all of it, allowing all of it to be okay. Whatever you're going through, whatever traumas, whatever's been going on, accepting, allowing, let it all be okay. And coming back to that 0 point where the light and the dark meet in the middle of your heart, into that peaceful, calm abiding. This is our human experience, right? And this is what happens. And this human experience, and again, take what resonates and leave the rest, but we are all moving through different karma. And so that's why we all have these unique situations that we're moving through, and we all have soul contracts, and we are on these sacred journeys. And so this journey with my dad was sacred. These wounds that I had from my dad, these are sacred wounds. So realize whatever you've had, those are sacred wounds. And sometimes we contract that. We contract that because we want to. Karma is where in different lifetimes, let's say, well, I'll give you an example of my karma so you can see. And I know this with my bodhisattva. I've learned some of my past lives so I can share some of my karma. So in one of my past lives, I made choices that harmed people financially. Look at that. So in that lifetime, my choices harmed people and they suffered financially. So now look at me in this life. I'm carrying that sacred wound. I'm carrying that contract. Now in this lifetime, I get to feel what it's like to have a difficult life with, with this idea that I am lacking, not having enough money. I get to feel what that's like now that in that past life, I dished it out. Now I get to feel what it feels like to be on the other side of that. That's karma. So if you're ever wondering, why is this happening to me? There's something in there. There's some karma. There's some cause and effect. And again, you can go back to the universal truths. Cause and effect. That's just a universal truth, karma. So we're all moving through it. And again, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's that we're moving through these lessons. We get to see both sides again, so we can awaken to our divinity and to our wholeness. So these are sacred wounds, these are soul contracts. And so once you understand that, it really makes the process so much, I mean, I want to say a little bit easier. And of course, the more we practice this, the easier it gets. And that's why you want to have practices. You want to have real practices in place. So whenever you're moving through an upset and a difficult, you can come back to your steps, write it down, do your excavation, and then get to those mindfulness and somatic practices to move it out of the body, right? And so it's powerful work. And so this is what my work is all about. This is my jam. This is what I've done in my life to help me heal and live in harmony and peace, and to move through some of these upsets with a little more ease and grace. And so this just gives you a glimpse of what my mindfulness and somatic practices and coaching sessions are all about. And of course, now the next step, you can just go to on my YouTube channel, on my playlist, there's Qigong videos and somatic videos. And now you can just select one of the Qigong videos that resonates with you. In fact, I'll leave in the link below one of the ones called Mindfulness for Letting Go. And then now you go and do that practice with the intention that you are releasing and clearing that emotion that has arisen for you. And so like in that mindfulness for letting go, I was clearing grief. I was working with grief. And so in that practice, I was with my breath. I was just allowing myself through my breath and the movement to move that grief out of my body. And so it's so powerful. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this practice and this little glimpse in what my sessions and Qigong and mindfulness sessions look like. And of course, to learn more, you can check out my website below or booking link. And of course, I do offer private sessions as well. So all the information is below. I'd love for you to write in the comment. Let me know what story are you releasing? What story are you finally clearing from your life? And so my story that I'm finally clearing from my life is this story of lack. I am letting go of lack. I am clearing lack out of my life, burning it up, letting it go, transmuting it. So I would love to know what you are clearing, what story you're finally ready to let go of, because you are a divine being. You are whole and complete right now. And I am sending you so much love. And if you'd like to help support our channel, you can like the video. You can also buy me a tea. And of course, leave that comment below. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing and just committing to yourself, committing to your healing, and being ready to finally release these stories that no longer are serving your highest good. So sending you so much love, and I will see you again real soon. Thank you so much for being here.